All right, guys, welcome in. Southeastern 16, our Saturday night reaction show here. Chase Robinson joins me, and Chris Lee out on assignment. Chase, I guess you could say,
Yep.
here tonight, covering that thriller known as the 34-0 Vanderbilt lead right now against Alcorn State. But wow, what an interesting day, Chase. We were talking before we hopped on. We're like, what a weird day. And I feel like Chris and I talked about it this morning. We were like, everybody's amped up for week one, but it's like week two, you feel like it's almost the most unpredictable because you see teams go out and just clobber teams in week one. Not everyone, because you have some more, tougher matchups, but, all these teams that were winning by, 60 plus points or whatever the number was, all of a sudden now you turn around and you play some different competition. It worked out for some, Chase, has not worked out for others.
It has not worked out for others. It has been a strange day. We've got closer games than we thought we would have. I mean, Alabama right now is in a dogfight with South Florida. Oklahoma and Houston are in a battle there in the third quarter. LSU has struggled with Nicholls some during the game. They're up 44-21 now. Tennessee is looking the part, though, right now with a huge lead over North Carolina State. Texas, big win earlier. I don't know what we can say about Arkansas. I'm sure we'll get to that. But, yeah, just an interesting day today.
All right, guys. So as you can tell, I'm traveling, so I don't have my usual setup. So if there's any technical issues, blame it on me. And we will probably not go as long as we usually do. But again, if you're watching this on the replay, remember we will pretty much cover these games in a little bit more depth in our power rankings on Monday morning. So we'll talk about your game, a little bit more so than kind of where the team's at if we don't get too in depth on some of it. And of course, there will be, there'll be some games finishing after we finish, Chase. I'm pretty sure there's one game that probably won't even kick off until after we finish with Mississippi State and Arizona State. So,
yes.
Just a note there. As you can tell, Big Baller Brett is not having a fun time right now in Tuscaloosa with the Crimson Tide, who are trying to punch it in right now against South Florida as we start the fourth quarter. And I may be a little behind on that. So I'm sure we'll see the comments light up once we get into it. But yeah, don't worry, Jesse. We're gonna talk about South Carolina, Kentucky. We might talk about that one right off the bat, even though Texas went in and put a stomping on Michigan. We'll get to that too. Before we do, let's tell you quickly about Bet Online, the world's most trusted betting platform. And if you went with some of our picks this week, mine included, Chase. I know I wasn't on the predictions with you guys, but I also had some predictions that did not exactly pan out well. Without a doubt, you can go to Bet Online, bet against us because it's the number one source for everything football, every stat, every matchup, live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. If you know your stuff, get in on that $200,000 mega contest. Pick 5 games against the spread every week. Your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that $200,000. Nobody on this video is getting a share of that $200,000 this week. I can tell you that. When the game's over, head on casino, play some blackjack, or they have over 150 slots games. Head to their website today to get on the action. Bet Online. The game starts here. All right, Chase. Let's start with Kentucky, South Carolina, because that's the brand game because we had an SEC on SEC game. And boy, I am willing to admit, I know you guys had your own opinions on this game. I am willing to admit completely whiffed on this one because we all saw South Carolina in week one. We said, oh boy, what happened? This was not a good performance against Old Dominion. We talked about Old Dominion's picked 6th in their division heading into the season. What are they going to do against Kentucky team? We looked great for 2 quarters and 5 minutes or whatever it was they played against Southern Miss. Wow. Talk about a complete change in direction for both teams, seemingly. South Carolina looked really good. Kentucky did not, Chase.
And I will say this. I have a good friend of mine who's a huge South Carolina fan. He's been giving me a hard time all week for something I said. I think it was on a ranking show that I was hitting the panic button on South Carolina. Didn't like they were out. He's been giving me a hard time about that this week. And I said, look, well, maybe they'll change my mind against Kentucky. And they've changed my mind. I will be the first to admit I was wrong. This South Carolina team is worlds better than I thought they were. I mean, and if they play like this, if they get the Lenore Sellers that they got today, I'm good with South Carolina. I think that they could win some games. I thought Rocket Sanders carried the ball well. Defensively, hey, they were rocking and rolling in Lexington today. I really like what I saw from South Carolina's defense. So yes, I will be the first to admit I was completely wrong about the Gamecocks.
I mean, I think that's what we said a minute ago. It's like how can we accurately predict like this being a 31-6 game after what we saw in week 1? And I think it's one of those things again where it's so hard to, and we do it every year, right? We were talking about it this morning. It's like we overreact to everything because it's like your first game, like it's the first sample size you've seen. You've been waiting for months and months and months, and you're like, okay, this tells me everything, right? This is all I need to know about this team, and then we just have to realize it's not always the case. But yeah, I mean, it is something where you look at the way this game played out, and of course, from the Kentucky side, obviously a lot of the attention is just going to be on the passing game, which I mean, there's not even, I mean, there probably is a word for it that Kentucky fans are using quite a bit, but I mean, it was just completely non-existent, right? 44 yards passing in this game. And again, you think how the game played out, and they still only had 44 yards passing in this one.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, this is a good point. Like, it's just, I mean, it felt like every opportunity Kentucky had, they just were not getting the clean looks they wanted because there was the pressure, and they just, I mean, Brock Vandegrift, obviously goes without saying, if you watch the game, you know how it played out for him, but it just had no shot to really make anything happen. And Chase, that was really the story of this game.
It really was. And I mean, I felt like every time that Vandegrift had the ball in his hand, like, yeah, he had nothing to do. He had nowhere to go and no time to think. And so credit South Carolina's defense. Again, if they can keep this up, and hey, Old Dominion, I know they're a good football team. That's who South Carolina had last week, and 23-19 was the final. So we got a little worried there. But if South Carolina can do this consistently, what they did to Kentucky today, I like South Carolina. They just need to keep this up, and I think they can, again, especially defensively, and maybe the offense with a new quarterback like the Norris Sellers, it may take him a couple of weeks to get comfortable and keep going like this. But I really like what I saw from the defense.
Yep. And I mean, I think something that's interesting too, like we've always talked about it with Shane Beamer, and even if you want to criticize the guy, right, he always, you look at the teams and the ability to make adjustments. And I think it's, something even last year, right? Remember that game where they opened with North Carolina last year? Then they came back. I think they won a game after that. I don't know if it was Furman or something like that. Then they came back and they were up, halftime against Georgia. They were up 14-3 or whatever. And so, like, they made a lot of adjustments from game one, almost kind of a similar, to maybe a more extreme this year, though, in this particular instance, going on the road and just beating, Kentucky the way that they did. And so, yeah, I mean, and think about this too, Chase, like as we look ahead, and I'm sure we'll, be talking about a lot of this going into next week, but now guess what? Like South Carolina gets their next 3 games at home, right? They get LSU, they get Akron, they get Ole Miss before they have to go back to back at Alabama and Oklahoma. So all of a sudden, that's what we say, like winning a game like this. And you said it a minute ago, like LSU looks a little bit more dominant now, but Brian Kelly's still not happy about LSU at this point. So it's going to be interesting as we look ahead to see what the Gamecocks can do. Still have some things that they're working on too. But I mean, how can you not walk out of this with just a complete, smile on your face if you're a South Carolina fan? So.
Oh yeah, and I think you got to. And so yeah, I think South Carolina is a completely different story than what we were talking about a week ago.
Yep. Shout out to SC Scout Guy, one of our regulars here on the SEC live streams that we do. And yeah, I mean, it's going to be rocking. You're right about that, SC Scout Guy. It will be rocking there for sure. As always, guys, if you want to leave a chat, do so. We'll get to it. Again, we will not be able to hit on every single game, but we'll kind of give you some big thoughts on the bigger games and then kind of maybe hit on anything else we saw from the day. And as we said, there will be plenty of games still in progress as we finish this, but yeah, just the nature of how the schedule is played out here on this. And
I got a little update.
Go ahead, Chase. I have a feeling what your update is going to be. So,
well, in the showdown in Tuscaloosa, Alabama fumbled the ball inside the 5-yard line, so South Florida has it back just really a couple of minutes into the fourth quarter. And Alabama, they have struggled stopping South Florida today. They've been getting some big plays on the Alabama defense, so they've got a long way to go. Obviously, they're back at around the 10-yard line, so they got 90 yards to go. But they've been moving the ball well on Alabama today. But another missed opportunity for Alabama, 5 yards away from the goal line. So that is not good for the Tide.
Chase, I think I said this. I'm fairly certain I did, and trust me, someone can find it. I'm fairly certain on the morning show today with Chris, I said my stone cold lead pipe lock of the day was that the Alabama-South Florida game was not going to look anything like the Alabama-South Florida game from last year. And unfortunately, it's kind of been that way. So, yeah, again, bet against us. That fade Southeastern 16 this week. That was your best play. But I wanted to quickly circle back around for Kentucky, for anyone who's not keeping up the Kentucky schedule. They host Georgia next week. So, yeah, not ideal. Georgia took care of business against Tennessee Tech today, as you would expect. They didn't cover that, whatever it was, monstrous 53.5 or whatever the spread was on that. Tennessee Tech kicked the field goal at the buzzer, 48-3. Georgia was victorious there. But, all right, Chase, let's talk about, Tennessee is just taking it to NC State. We'll wait till the end for that. The game may still be going on, but the game is over for all intents and purposes. Texas, my goodness. Man, we kind of said it though, right? We were like, if you watch, that was one where if you go by week one, you're like, boy, Michigan did not look great. They are a work in progress on offense. You know that. Texas looked fantastic. And so if you did want to overreact to week one, this was your game because, Texas went up. Chase, it was like you could sort of tell from the beginning that Michigan was going to have a hard time stopping Texas. They were kind of, having their way. They were up to 24-3 at the half.
Yeah.
But you also could tell very early on that Michigan just did not have any sort of rhythm offensively. And, this game plays out. Texas wins 31-12. And, say what you want about whether, we all kind of thought maybe this could happen. But still, for Texas to go to the big house, beat the defending national champion, end all of those streaks that they were putting out, all those numbers, it's impressive. And certainly, now you're looking at Georgia and Texas and thinking about all the possibilities there as we move forward. So,
yeah, and when you talk about a Steve Sarkisian team, you talk offense, but what I love about this team is their defense. And Chris and I talked about it over the summer when we were previewing the teams and everything. Just Sark really went out. Yeah, he got some good pieces offensively out of the transfer portal, but he really enhanced the defense. And knowing that was going to be kind of the ticket for Texas to get past where they were last year, which was, nice. It was a trip to the college football playoff, but to get past that, they had to enhance some of the defense. And so he went out. He got a transfer from UTSA, 2 from Arizona, 1 from Clemson, 1 from San Jose State. So really good high school guys in there as well on the defensive side of the ball. So they really made some enhancements, and that's what I really like about this Texas team because I'm not at all worried about their offense. I thought this offense is going to score points, but can their defense make the stops that they need? And they showed that today. Yes, Michigan is not as good as they were last year. We can all say that by just watching. But Texas is for real. I really like them. I know a lot of folks said that they may be overhyped heading in the year, whatever. No, Texas they're for real. And they showed that today. They can move the ball well, but they can also make those stops.
Keep in mind, and I think, the big story for Texas, especially coming into the season and this game probably in particular, like we were all talking about the running backs, right? Okay, you lose 2 running backs in the preseason for the year, your starter in Baxter, and then you're like, okay, what's going to happen? And then like in this game is another perfect example. Like Jaden Blue went out, I think it was in the first quarter, towards the end of the first quarter, something like that. And I think it was the ankle injury or whatever. He's fine. But they just had, they had other guys, right? Like, they have 2 other guys just come in and it just keeps churning. Like they just keep churning along. And like, of course, everything's, all the attention is going to be around Quinn Ewers because, he obviously had a Quinn Ewers-like game, goes for 246 yards, 3 touchdowns. Meanwhile, on the other side, we talked about Michigan not being able to get anything going. Warren, throws 2 picks. And again, they just never seem to find the rhythm. But you just look at, what Texas was able to do on the ground, getting big plays, and then, through the air as well. And like you said, the defense is what we're all going to look at the offense first, but man, this defense is one that, if Texas is going to have a chance to take that next step, as you mentioned, they're going to have a great opportunity to that. And I think here's what's interesting with Texas, right? And we talked about this going into the season with the schedule. UTSA,
Yes.
UL Monroe, Mississippi State, Oklahoma's neutral, which, we know that, and then Georgia, right? So, I mean, those are all games that now you look at this Texas team and you're like, man, that Georgia game, you're circling it, even though you're not going to look past Oklahoma, but the path is there, for Texas just to be steamrolling some people up to that. So
it sure is. Yeah. And it would surprise me none if that was the case. So yeah, I think Texas is in a really good position, and not only their schedule, but this is a good football team that they have that they're going to win some games, and they're going to win some games big. I think this year.
Yep. So the Longhorns easily, I think, in a top 10 showdown. And again, some people may look at Michigan and not feel like they're a top 10 team. And I think you could certainly argue that against that today based on the performance, but don't want to take anything away from Texas. Like, I think that was a very impressive performance to go there and do that. So, yep, but we'll see how it plays out there. All right. Again, if you're joining in for Tennessee, NC State, we will get to that one here in a bit. We'll kind of try to see if that one's going to play. I mean, it's 37-3 now. The Vols are just handling it, as Chase, I think, may have texted before. It's like, when are we going to start this thing, Chase? Like, I'm like, well, maybe if Tennessee's up by 2 touchdowns or something. And Chase like, I got a feeling that's going to happen. So, we didn't get a lot right this week, but that's one that I think a lot of us felt pretty confident about heading into it. But again, guys, quickly, if you want to leave a super chat, do that. Share your thoughts on your team's performance today. You can as well. If you're watching on the replay, as we said, we will not be able to get to every game here in this 45 minutes to an hour that we're going to be on live here, but we will certainly follow up on Monday with our power rankings and all that good stuff. So hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, leave a super chat. That helps us out here. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always. But speaking of blowouts, a couple more happening around the SEC, which we'll get to as well. Missouri just wrapped up against Buffalo, and hey, Florida fans, you can feel a little bit better. 45-7 Chase for the Gators. DJ Lagway with quite a performance in that one. So at least for now, Florida fans can breathe easy with a 45-7 win over Samford.
Yeah, they needed that. That was good today, and again, a great game from Lagway. Samford has been a good team in the FCS. They lost a lot last year. They kind of rebuilding. They have a quarterback who's been injured. He's back, but maybe not 100%. But nonetheless, great win for Florida. Again, maybe their offense can get some continuity here. I'm interested to see, how they move forward when Mertz is able to come back, how they fit Lagway in. If he keeps playing good, I think that'll be interesting to see for Florida.
Yep. I mean, that was the thing too, like right going into the season. I mean, it was, hey, look, they have both these guys at their disposal. Like, let's see how this thing plays out. And you just look at the numbers here, right? Like, just absolutely ridiculous numbers. Am I seeing this right, Chase? Did he pass for 456 yards in this game?
Yes, he did.
My goodness. Yeah, that's right, because Badger and Wilson both had. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was like, do the numbers add up? But yeah, that does add up. So
Alabama scored.
Hey, big baller Brett, where are you at? Yes, Alabama, and it's interesting because like I always like that people are going to watch the replay and listen to the replay, and it's like you're following along and you're just like, oh man, like you already know what's happened, but you're just thinking in your mind like, oh, these guys have no idea what's about. Like, you already kind of have an idea of what's going on. But so Florida with a 45-7 win over Samford. We'll talk about maybe if the Gators are going to rise up in our power rankings, Chase, next week. We'll find out. Composite rankings.
We'll see.
You and I don't decide this. It's just,
you're right.
We put our rankings in, and it's up to everybody else to fit that. All right. We got to talk about Arkansas. And I know there's some Arkansas fans in here, and they're going to be watching the replay. I mean, I text you guys, and I'm just like, and I didn't mean this in necessarily, the wrong way, but I'm like, this just feels like one of those like overtime games where you're like, what am I watching? Because it felt like, and I know Arkansas fans know this, we're recording 7 hours after this game was over or whatever. But I just kept watching it, and it's almost getting to a point where you're like, well, what are they gonna, what's the next play that's going to go wrong for Arkansas, right? And it's just, I mean, every single time, like you're thinking, okay, that's the play where finally maybe that's the one they needed, right? They're going to get some momentum, but then it's okay, there's a flag, or they do this, or you have, questionable maybe things like even what was it, the late game situation where they decide to do this and they don't spike the ball instead. Like it was a culmination of so many things in that game. And remember, they're leading, and you're thinking, okay, this is it. Like, we're texting earlier, we're like, all right, Arkansas's back, baby. Like, here we go. Like, this is what we expected, the Bobby Petrino effect. But then to lose that game 39-31 in double overtime, and to lose it the way that they lost it. I mean, that is another one where it is just like an absolute gut punch for Arkansas fans who were really, really optimistic after week one, even though you know the opponent. But now to see the way you started this game and to have it finish that way, oh my goodness.
Yeah, if you're a fan of special teams, that was not the game to watch, especially there towards the end. Yeah, I mean, I was watching that first half. I thought, this is incredible, what Arkansas is doing, and they looked totally in control, especially offensively. The defense looked great too. I mean, they were keeping Oklahoma State inside the hash marks. Ollie Gordon couldn't do a thing. I was just so impressed with Arkansas all around. I said, this is a totally different team than last year. This is a totally different team than what I thought they were going to be. But then as I kept watching, it felt like it just fell apart, and I think it was 5 games, and somebody in the comments can correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was 5 games they lost last year by 1 possession. They just couldn't finish games. Like the Alabama game. I mean, they were in that game till the very end. Alabama won it. Arkansas couldn't drive the ball down the field towards the end of the game after they had all night. So, they couldn't finish last year. I feel like that's just kind of continued. They just couldn't finish the game today when they did so well in the first half, and I think they are a good team. I obviously, if they play like they did in the first half, the whole game, they're winning that game easy, and they're going to win a lot of games this year. They've just got to find a way to keep that spark going all game. I'm not sure what it is. Can't put my finger on it, but like they have the players to be good. They've got Bobby Petrino, who's a great offensive mind. Their defense looks really good. Like this is a good team. I don't know. I don't really know what the problem was today that caused that, but they had that game in control.
Yeah, and I think it's one where, like, again, if your expectations going in are you're playing a top 20 team on the road and you take it to double overtime and you lose. If you just say that on the surface, you're thinking, okay, all right, we're like great. And I think there is some of that sentiment, right? Like, I mean, Tyler's saying like the offense can be really good. $5 super chat here. Went to Stillwater, took it to 2 OT for the number 16 team to put us down. Honestly, not upset about it. Thank you for the super chat. But like, I think you're going to see, that's going to be part of it too. But it is just like, these are the kind of games you're going to look back on, because let's say the season doesn't go the way Arkansas wants it to. Let's say you have a couple more of these along the way, and all of a sudden, we're getting to the end of the season and the discussion's going to be had about Sam Pittman again. But you're just wondering, like, these are the kind of games, like you said, you have to find a way to finish them. And remember, this is a game that Arkansas is up 21-10 with basically a minute to go in the third quarter. Oklahoma State kicks the field goal. And then from there, like, everything just goes nuts, it seems like. And, even that, I mean, you're up 21-13 with less than 10 minutes left in the game. And then, you're bouncing back and forth at that point, and it's wild. So I do think it's one where, yes, if you look at the offensive pieces here and you see the numbers that, Green puts up, you see the numbers Jackson, like, no doubt, like, I think you're still going to come out of this with some optimism. It's just, in a game like this in college football where, you only get to play so many games each season, like, these are the kind of ones you look back on, you're like, man, what might have been. But, I'll throw it back to you, Chase, but I think it's interesting for Arkansas now moving forward, because UAB next week, they're at Auburn, and we'll get to Auburn in a second. Home against A&M, home against Tennessee, home against LSU. Like, there's opportunity for this team.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what's going to be interesting, because certainly we talked about schedules. Front half of the schedule by no means easy, but when you start to look at, Tennessee and beyond, you've got some really tough games in there. And the good news is we said for Arkansas coming into the season, a lot of those tough games are at home. And so this was one you let it get away, but you still are going to have some opportunities in Fayetteville to rack up some wins this season against good teams that may be, just as good as Oklahoma State, better than Oklahoma State. But I mean, you kind of proved you could play with these guys. You just got to clean up some of the stuff that, that went wrong. So.
Yeah, and again, like I'm not saying this is a bad Arkansas team. I like them. I think they have the good personnel. They just got to learn how to finish, and if they do that, yeah, they're going to win some of these games. And I think it's good to have A&M at home, to have Tennessee, LSU, Ole Miss, Texas all at home. So we'll see what they could do. I mean, again, find some consistency, find a little spark to keep whatever was going in the first half going, and I think we're having a totally different conversation on the Razorbacks.
All right, Chase, we're going to quickly clean up the rest of the games that are already finished, and I know that we've once again got a bit of a swing in the Alabama-South Florida game, as USF looks like they're about to score potentially here. We'll find out. But, all right, so we said, and you can just take this wherever you want it, pick and choose from any of these games. Like I said, guys, we will not be able to get into necessarily all these blowouts, but Missouri won 38-0 over Buffalo. Theo Weiss had a big game with 13 receptions, 149 yards in that game. Ole Miss took care of business as we expected against MTSU. Parrish goes for 4 touchdowns in that game. I mean, we knew, again, that was kind of Chris said this morning, I think, he's like, the spread can't be high enough in this Ole Miss MTSU game. But 52-3 is the final there. A&M beat McNeese 52-10 in that one. Anything you want to grab from those 3 blowouts, Chase?
Yeah, I mean, no surprise on Ole Miss. They're absolutely dominant. And yeah, that was not surprising at all. I like Ole Miss's defense. I talked about Texas defense earlier. Another offensive coach, but another really good defense that Ole Miss has. How about Theo Weiss and the day he had? Great day. A&M needed a big win, I think, following that loss last week that I know is still stinging against Notre Dame on their home field. So they were able to put up 52 points today. Connor Wegman definitely had a better afternoon today than he did last week. And I think once he gets back and back comfortable, we'll be seeing a different guy than what we saw from Connor Wegman a week ago.
Yep, as noted here by Tyler, Luther Burton didn't play in the second of that one. So, so that's worth noting. But look, Brant brings it up here. As I learned about Father Lamont Paris in the basketball front, when we picked against South Carolina, it did not go well. And so, yes, Father Beamer, we're gonna we have to start calling him that, Brant. Like that may be that may be our thing moving forward. We might not have a choice. We'll see how it plays out. Big baller Brett, not having fun in Tuscaloosa right now, 21-16. So at least it held to a field goal, Chase. So,
yeah.
But man, Alabama is just, they're beating Alabama right now. A lot of penalties and a lot of head shaking over there from Nick Saban.
Seeing
a lot of penalties. Of those, a lot of penalties. So those mistakes are not helping. All right. Let's talk about Auburn real quick. I know Auburn fans may not want that, but let's talk about the Tigers, who, again, Chase, another one, like, willing to admit, completely wrong about this game. I came in looking at a Cal team that turned the ball over a ton last year. I know they had Jade Knott, but, they just turned the ball over a lot last year. And, yes, you had a quarterback going from freshman to sophomore, and you're thinking, all right, maybe. I just did not think that Auburn would struggle the way they did against this Cal team. Mendoza, that was kind of my worry coming in. When you looked at the numbers, you're thinking this is a guy who turned the ball over a bit last year. Did not do that here. 233 yards, 2 touchdowns in this game. Meanwhile, on the other side, Chase, and Chris asked this question this morning. We talked about the number in this game. It went from like 13.5 to 10. And I'm like, man, that's a pretty dramatic move there. If you're looking at it from a betting standpoint. And he said, why do you think that is? And of course, I'm not a Vegas expert by any means. Yeah. Go ask Brian Edwards or someone. Like, I don't know. But I said, if you're asking me what maybe it could have to do with, I said, it could just be that people are realizing, hey, not sure I completely just buy in on Auburn's offense just yet after one game against Alabama A&M. And what do you know? I mean, I think coming out of this, that's certainly going to be the discussion that's had.
Yeah, and I don't remember if I said this on our channel or a radio show. I thought Auburn was going to win by 2 touchdowns today, just because I thought this offense, and yeah, not trying to put too much on Auburn, but I thought, well, Peyton Thorne played a really clean game last week, didn't turn the ball over. He has great receivers to go to. And the defense of Cal is not as good to me as it was last year when they played and held them to 14 points. But it was, it looked like an Auburn game from last year to me. The way Peyton Thorne turned it over 3 times, 2 of those times eventually turned into touchdowns for Cal. And so, yeah, really disappointed just from what I saw from Auburn today. Again, I thought this team was going to be better and more consistent. I'll say not better, more consistent, because I still think they have a good roster, and I think they can be good and win some games. They just got to find some consistency, and that is what Peyton Thorne does not have. He didn't have it last year, and after a great game last week, he had no consistency this week. So, a lot of questions on Auburn. And again, couldn't really stop Cal at times. They got some big plays off of them, and I think there's some concerns around Auburn right now if they've got this thing rolling like they want to. And again, they made some good improvements on defense, I thought, but still they just they didn't look motivated today. And this is a game you would think they're playing in Jordan-Hare Stadium. They've got Cal coming in. You would think that they would be motivated, but they looked lackluster today, and I can't figure that out.
Yeah, 5 turnovers. They had the 4 interceptions, the lost fumble too in that one. And I mean, that's the thing, right? We came in, we're like, hey, this is going to look like more like a Hugh Freeze team, right? That was kind of the expectation. And man, in a game like that against a Cal team that I don't know where they finish in the ACC, Chase. Like, I don't think that's an upper tier team necessarily. Like, I just and for Auburn, I mean, we talked about this too, the schedule coming into the season and the importance of this game specifically, because yes, they play New Mexico next week, should win that game. But then you look at the way the SEC schedule sets up for them. Those first 4 games, Arkansas at home, who, as we said, Arkansas, despite the loss today, looks way more like a formidable foe than maybe some would have thought. Oklahoma after that, which, boy, there's another discussion, Chase, because the Sooners, I think Chris also said this morning, he'd like to see the Sooners put their foot down a little bit and take care of business. That has not happened. At Georgia, at Missouri. So, like, that's your first 4 SEC games for Auburn. And so, yeah, like you kind of throw your hands up and they're like, where are they at? How improved are they by the time they get to Arkansas on September 21st? And then where are they at by the time they go to Kentucky on October 26th? So, like, in that month span with those SEC opponents, man, like, that is just it's brutal to lose a game. Like, not even just to lose a game, right? It's the way, like you said. Now it's like deja vu, I think, for some Auburn fans, because they're like, oh no, like, are we going to now see this every week for the rest of the season? Because I don't think you necessarily just fix all of this right now, but it's a work in progress. So.
Yeah. And, even we had, if people missed it, I know it was about the Cal game, but we interviewed Jason Campbell last week on the SEC Football Hour, and even a guy who he's a color analyst for the radio broadcast. So he's around the program a lot. He knows these guys, and even he was saying, this is a different Auburn team than last year. Peyton Thorne has had a full off season together, and it's but we didn't see that. This is unexpected, I think, from everybody around the program, that today went the way it did, and it was shocking, really, to watch what was taking place.
All right, we got some fun stuff in the chat. As always, guys, leave your thoughts, comments, super chats, all that good stuff. If you're joining us for the first time, we do this every Saturday night, and we don't always get to every game before they finish. As we said, there's going to be one game kicking off before I don't know if they're going to kick off yet, Mississippi State and Arizona State, but we will circle back around on Monday morning, give you the rest of our thoughts from the weekend. So if you are joining for the first time, we do this every Saturday night live stream, as well as a Saturday morning show, and our predictions and everything else throughout the week. So hit that subscribe button, and I'm going to get to some of these fun things. Then we're going to talk about Tennessee because that game is over pretty much, and then we'll run through a couple more things before we hop off. But yeah, quickly, SC Scout guy. I when I went to say Cal in the ACC, I had to think about it for a second. I was like, oh yeah, that's right there on the ACC. But there's something else, Chase. I don't. UCLA, I think that they were doing the math or whatever before the season started on like UCLA's travel they're gonna have to do going to the Big Ten. I'm just thinking, what do you think about like Cal and Stanford? Like, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
In
the ACC after dark when when North Carolina State goes to Cal or whoever it is from the East Coast.
Yeah. But anyways, breaking news. So we are gonna have game day. South Carolina LSU. How about that? So
how about it? That's exciting.
That's a big one. Beamer ball in full swing here. So there you go, South Carolina fans. I know you're excited about that. Did Vandy run out of fireworks? They scored so many points, they're out of fireworks at Vandy. Well, good for Vandy, right, Chase? Look,
yes.
I mean, there's really nothing to say about that. I mean, they're going to win this game 55-0. They're 2-0, and beat Virginia Tech as we said last week. And I think Van Diego, as we said, Diego Pavia, like he's given them a little something that you feel like this team is up for the task now. And we always say sometimes this game can be pretty simple. Starts with quarterback, the quarterback play, how consistent are you? And that can determine a lot. So good for the Commodores.
In some of the football I've seen today, Vanderbilt may get some more wins.
Vandy's moving up our power rankings pretty quickly here. So yeah, I told you guys last week, I'm like, come on, put them in the single digits, get them out of the double digit ranking. We'll see if they get there this week. But yeah, Vandy's going to take care of business against Alcorn State. We did mention LSU earlier. They're going to take care of business against Nicholls. Probably not the way that Brian. I'm curious to hear this Brian Kelly press conference after the game because I have a feeling that could be pretty entertaining for based on his frustration with how they played specifically in the first half. They're going to again kind of finish running away with this somewhat, although maybe 3 touchdowns or so. But yeah, LSU, interesting team moving forward. I mean, we still have no idea what's going to happen in Oklahoma and Houston, which I am just stunned by, to be honest with you. We said it right, and Chase, I mean, this game's probably still going to be going by the time we finish up here, but I mean, if you're an Oklahoma fan, we talked about it, right? You want to see them. What was it last week? We were talking about the third downs and that kind of stuff with the offense, and really trying to figure out, where do they go from here? And this is probably not where you expected them to go from here, being up 14-12 on Houston, who scored 7 points last week against UNLV, which, what it's worth, UNLV I think is not too shabby. They beat Utah Tech today 72-14. So but still, if you're an Oklahoma fan, not ideal.
It's not, and they only have 62 yards rushing, and so very not balanced offense today. Let's see what they've got. 128 yards passing so far. A couple of turnovers though, which I feel like have been the kicker for them. And so, not at all what we were expecting from Oklahoma. We previewed this game earlier in the week, and, we just thought Oklahoma would take care of business quickly on this Houston team. This is not the Houston team like we've seen the last couple of years. It's been pretty good. But, Oklahoma struggling. We'll see if they can pull it out. There's over 6 minutes left in the game, so a lot can happen. But Oklahoma does have the football.
All right, let's talk about Tennessee real quick, and then I'm not going to say anything, Alabama fans. I don't want to jinx you, but we'll get to it here in a second. I mean, again, Tennessee, this game's over. They're up 44-10, fourth quarter here, so we can talk about the Vols. I mean, I think the thing is, like, with all the hype surrounding Nico, and not to say it's not warranted, and I know it was mentioned in the comments. Unfortunate. Elijah says on the second pick wasn't really his fault, but in the numbers wise, if you're doing the Heisman, race or whatever, it may not be what you want. But I think, the thing that I was wondering if it's going to be underplayed the most was just Dylan Sampson, because I remember how much we talked about him last year, and you're like, okay, this running back room from Tennessee is it's ridiculous. But, it's like how many opportunities you're going to get with the other guys that were there. And now you kind of see the impact that he has on a game like this. And again, as it stands right now, 20 carries, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had the one that went for 30 plus there, caught some passes too, 3 for 37. And I think that's what makes this Tennessee offense just so dynamic. And yes, Nico's number is probably not what he wanted to be tonight, but nonetheless, I think when you look at just all the options that they have on this offense, and it was brought up earlier too, Chase, and I don't necessarily think offense is going to be the theme coming out of this game. The theme's going to be the defense. And remember, we're all going in and everybody's thinking about the secondary, right? Like, is the secondary going to be able to hold up in games like this? Like, trying to figure out, okay, maybe a little unproven, trying to figure out what that unit's going to look like. But as someone said earlier, Tyler said it, the defensive line for Tennessee, it's like you could turn away and just, turn back to the next play, and you kind of have an idea of what you're going to see. You're going to have 4 Tennessee guys wrapping somebody up because they are just the way they push up front, and you just see sort of that burst that they have on the defensive line. It is just remarkable to watch them play. Like, even if you're someone who just loves offense and you're like, but if you just watch Tennessee play defense, especially, up front, it's something else. So
they're going to cause problems every week, and even for teams who have good offensive lines. I mean, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. So yeah, they're if they stay healthy, which I hope they do, just to see what they can do, man, they're gonna wreak some havoc this year.
Yeah, the Vols, man, and remember that's a top 25 NC State team, and to like, is NC State going to wind up in the top 25 to finish the season? I don't know. Like, I still don't think that's a bad team. I just think Tennessee is a team that, again, it's the way they play. Like, it's the style and how they want to play and how hard it is to simulate what Tennessee does on offense. But really, if you combine that with what they can be defensively, like, man, I'm telling you, you guys did that video, was it probably a week or two ago now? Like, talking about is Tennessee a legitimate SEC title contender?
Yep.
And there are a lot of those swing games in there that they've got to win. And you don't want to crown anybody after 2 weeks, but I'm telling you, I think there's a lot of things with this Tennessee team that they have the formula to get there. Have to clean up a few things, as everyone does, but the Vols really good in this game against NC State, without a doubt. But big baller Brett, ecstatic here as the Alabama fan, and yes, this game is going to be over too, Chase. We can go ahead and talk about this one. Talk about how much things can change when we start a live stream by the time a live stream is over. We're thinking, oh boy, is South Florida about to beat Alabama? Well, not going to happen, because Alabama has pushed it out here with several big plays here at the end of the game, up 35-16. What do you think coming out of this, Chase, like with this Alabama team? I mean, the score is not going to indicate, really the way this game was played for the most part. So what are the biggest things that stand out to you with the Tide here?
Well, I think offensive line was a struggle tonight. Caden Proctor was out. They were moving guys around, and so I think that was an issue because Jalen Milroe didn't have a lot of time, much at all, and so therefore the offense was struggling. They couldn't run the ball whatsoever, and so and the penalties killed them. I mean, and when they did have a big play, it was called back because of penalties. So you got to clean some of that up. That is not going to fly in SEC play. That is not going to fly up in Camp Randall next Saturday, and when they play Wisconsin, and that won't go well if they have all these penalties and play like that. So clean some of that up. And Milroe was throwing the ball well. They couldn't be balanced on offense, and I think that was a big issue. Interesting note, kind of a stat that I saw. And I was wondering if we were going to have to talk about this tonight on the live stream as that game was going on. 5 of the last 6 Alabama football coaches in their first season as head coach, they have lost to what would be the equivalent of a group of 5 team. If you remember back in 2007, Nick Saban lost to Louisiana Monroe. I'm not sure the other games. Mike Shula lost so many games. I'm not sure which group of 5 team he lost to, but so I thought, well, maybe this was going to be it for Alabama, for Kalen DeBoer, and losing to a group of 5 team. But it looks like they're going to pull that out. But I thought that was an interesting stat, and that I was going to bring that up to the Alabama fans as here on the live stream tonight. But it looks like the Tide's going to hang on and win that one. But they got to clean up play again. If they want to be the number 4 team in the nation that they are right now, they can't play like that.
Yeah. For Alabama, I think there's some things again that they will have to figure out here as they move forward, and I think
I
that's where, yeah,
I will say this: Alex Galesh, the head coach there at South Florida, man, he has Alabama's number. I mean, he was the OC at Tennessee in
Mhm.
22 when Tennessee beat Alabama. He when he was at South Florida last year, obviously competed really hard with Alabama, and again this year, and he's figured it out. And I was impressed with him. Their quarterback Byron Brown, I think he's a good quarterback, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Alabama does following this. And again, they've got to clean up, especially those penalties.
Well, Alabama next week goes to Wisconsin, and then we know what's after that. The week off, and then it is the Georgia Bulldogs. So, that's where things stand with them. Donovan checking in, by the way, noted Auburn fan. Sorry, Donovan, I don't know what to tell you right now. But yeah, we'll see how things progress there with the Tigers. But all right, Chase, we'll wrap it up here in the next few minutes. Again, guys, if you want to throw in some super chats, you can. Anything else? And Mississippi State has kicked off. They're already down 7-0 to Arizona State. We're still waiting on this Houston Oklahoma game, which is still not decided with 2 minutes to go. I think there's a 2-minute warning there for them. If you're just jumping in, by the way, you can go back, watch the replay. We've hit on every game in some way, shape, or form in this live stream here for 45 minutes. So you can check out our thoughts on your team. And remember, this is not necessarily a stream where we're able to get into every game for 10 minutes in depth or anything like that, but we will circle back around, talk about your team on Monday morning when we do our power rankings and all of that. And as someone mentioned, the composite rankings this week should be very interesting to see where some teams are going to move around a bit. There you go, Sam. That's what I saw. Yeah, these power rankings are going to change a bit probably after week 2. So we'll find out, Chase. But
yeah, and I'm already thinking how I'm going to
yeah.
to put mine together. I'm a little lost on how I want to go about my rankings, and I'm interested to see what you guys do and how our composite rankings turn out.
Yeah. Shout out to Justin Holland, a long-time member here at Southeastern 16. If you want to join the It Just Means More tier, guys, you can do that. $3.99 a month. The donation tier lets us make more videos and live streams for you guys. Pavia for president. He's got Nico on the HOA board. So, Justin, did you let Vanderbilt run out of fireworks tonight? With all this super chat money, you maybe need to spend some, sending some fireworks to the Commodores. Yeah, I mean, hey, Vanderbilt might move up. They're going to jump a couple teams.
Maybe. That's for
so,
sure.
Yeah, there's a couple teams that got to move down. So,
yep.
I wonder what Texas A&M fans are thinking today, Chase, after the Notre Dame loss to Northern Illinois.
I don't know. That was a shocker too. That is
probably
for sure.
Probably not helping you if you're rooting for that. All right, Chase, we'll wrap up with this. And Houston's got the ball here. I think they're on their own 5-yard line with 1:40 something to go. So we will see if Houston does anything in the next couple minutes. But best or most impressive performance of the day for you? There's a lot you can probably choose from, but curious where you go with this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go South Carolina, just because they completely reversed what kind of everyone's perspective, I think, from last week, except for South Carolina fans. But they looked really good today, and they looked like the way I thought they could be going into the season. But yeah, I would say they were the most impressive to me, and I'm excited to see what they can do. I mean, and again, there was a lot of great performances, impressive games today. Tennessee, obviously, but kind of the way South Carolina reversed our minds on them today really stood out to me.
All right, before I give you mine quickly, yeah, right on cue. As soon as I said that, what happens? Oklahoma just got the safety on Houston. So who knew if you went into this game predicting what is going to be maybe the potential clinching play could be a safety for Oklahoma. But the game's not over. But yes, it is now 16-12 as they did get the safety in that one. So there you go. But Vanderbilt Goldberg speared Alcorn State. There you go, to bring your late 90s professional wrestling reference into this. That's a good one. So yes, Donovan, we said that. It's been a weird day. I mean, I think it's hard not to go with South Carolina as the most impressive performance. And it's like you can also pick Texas, but I still think Tennessee, what they're doing at NC State. And I think, as I said a minute ago, just the combination of things that they have I don't know. Any of those three, I'm going to be perfectly fine with. Which again, you can also be someone, who's a fan of your own team that racked up 40+ point wins today, and feel pretty good about it. But Tennessee, they just scored again. So it's 51-10. My goodness. Anyways, so there you go, guys. All right, we're gonna wrap up in a couple minutes here. It looks like so. Okay, wait a minute. Are we getting a reversal on this this Oklahoma safety? Is it getting reversed? So, it's another weird part of the day, perhaps. But all right, guys, we're gonna hop off here shortly. Again, be sure to check out everything we have on the channel. Our weekly predictions we'll have up for next week's games. Should be up Monday, Tuesday, as you know. So you can check that out. And our power rankings will be up Monday morning. Those are always a good time. Always a good time until the next week happens, and then you're like, wait a minute, why did I rank that team here or there? But check out everything we got at the channel, and leave your comments, any additional thoughts you have. If you're watching this on replay, listening, share some thoughts on your team and what you think moving forward. And Chase, we may or may not have something more to talk about with Oklahoma on Monday, depending on how this game ends. But we'll see. Either way, it's probably not going to be a pleasant conversation for Oklahoma fans, I don't think.
You're right. Yeah, they're probably ready for us to get off, quit talking about it.
Yeah, they're like, please get off here before we have to, go into this. But all right, guys, we appreciate you joining us. We said a little bit shorter than usual. I'm traveling. Chris is out covering a game, and we'll hop back on next week and do this. But we appreciate you guys watching as always, and we will talk to you again here soon at Southeastern 16.